a number of different sustainability initiatives. Nobody's saying that Walmart is still perfect. They still got a long way to go, I think, on the social side. But they did start doing some of the things that we've just talked about. For example, they started looking at packaging. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to engage our stakeholders, right, around this issue. So they did. They created this summit, and then they narrowed it down into a little network where they got 200 people that they thought were really important to this to try to decide what to do. And out of that, they set some goals. And lo and behold, what did they find? They found that they could save $3.5 billion out of their own supply chain. And if all of their suppliers did this with all of their other customers, they could take $11 billion out of the expense line. So now they're starting to say, wait a minute, you know, we were doing this because we were sort of forced into it, but now that we're starting to look for opportunities, hey, maybe we can actually save some money in some spots too. Not only try to change that 8% thing, but maybe help our operational folk. So this is an interesting evolution of Walmart. They're on the path, but again, they're not to the end. So we talked about this thing about how do we implement. I wanted to kind of jump back to that, and actually in my book I lay out this sustainability operating system. It consists of some factors, and we're going to talk about what these are, that drive the organization, that motivate the organization, that push the organization along. And then we've got these efficient enablers that create the environment in which this kind of change can happen. Let's see if I can get this up. Oops.
I just have to comment on your SOS because our advisory, we just decided that our advisory council, which Tony's going to be on, will be sustainability or supporters of sustainability. SOS.
Yeah, very good.
Advisory
very good.
Council, because we need help. So.
Oops,
we thought it was real creative, and I'm
yeah.
Yeah, isn't that great?
So there we go.
I'm so excited. I'm going to shoot. Somebody else has thought of it.
SOS is a great thing, you know.
I know.
You got a good thing. So we have these efficient enablers that sort of create the environment. Then, of course, we have to have the pathway, right? We talked about understanding what path we're going down. And then some way of evaluating whether you're staying on that path or not, and how we're progressing. And then ultimately, you continue on down this course with some sort of a continual improvement process until you get closer and closer to sustainability. So that's generally the model that I've used, that many companies use to make change happen. So when we talk about the drivers in an organization, what do you think the drivers are? Now, again, we're in the CEO meeting, and the CEO says, okay, what do we need to push our organization down this path? So what do we need? What? Support from the employees, absolutely. How do we get that?
I guess I would think maybe holding like a town hall meeting.
Some sort of meetings and communication, right?
Seeing what they're.
How do we drive the organization to get that support? What are the things that we need at the very beginning? Let's say we're starting brand new. CEO says, you're a consultant. CEO says, I want to move this towards sustainability. What do I need to drive my organization forward? What are the most important things that drive my organization forward? Leadership. You got to have something. You got to have a leader that says, you know, here's the way forward, guys. You know, this is our direction, right? Got to have that. What else do we have to have?
You have to have a rationale. Why are we doing it?
You have to have an explanation, a sales pitch, right? You have to be able to say, look, here's what sustainability is. Here's why we should be doing it. Here's what we should be doing ourselves within our organization. So, got to have that. Yeah. What else do we have to have? Trying to move our organization forward. Goals. And what about goals? Is it enough just to have a goal out here and then we put the goal up and then everybody kind of walks over here and does something else?
Well, you need attainable goals and stuff.
Well, attainable, but what else? Absolutely, you're right about that.
Steps to get there.
So you got plan and steps, and I just walk over here and I'm going to forget that. What?
Incentives?
I would say like a timetable as to how long it's going to take to get to that, certain
Absolutely, goal. Right. A good rational timetable.
Incentives,
and you want to build on that one. The things that are going to drive people to follow the goals. What does it take to get to get people to follow a goal?
It needs something to do it for.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have some reason. Be carrot or stick. I'm going to be rewarded if I do this thing right, and I do a good job of it. And you know what? I'm going to pay some prices if I don't. Right? Accountability. Accountability is the key word there, both on the positive side and the negative side. Plus, if we do it well, rewards, recognition, and so forth. So here are some of the drivers I've got. Certainly a champion. You got to have a leader, somebody who can articulate the message. You need visible top-level support. It's not enough for the CEO to say, yeah, I agree with this, and I'll sign off on the budget. You need this guy out there as a spokesperson. The woman CEO needs to stand up and say, here's what this is about, and here's why we're going to do it, and here's why it's important to the company. Not some, behind-the-scenes person. The pitch, the sales pitch, got to have that, and accountability, right? What about this efficient enablers? What do we need to do to set the organization right so that it's receptive to do this stuff? What would you do in an organization? I mean, we're got to have the organization set up to handle sustainability. What are some of the things you have to do at the very outset? Yeah.
I would just say for Dominican, one of the biggest, very efficient enabler is our mission, creating a more just and humane world. So it should be an enabler because your mission.
It could be.
And it doesn't cost money because it's already.
You could say that, or you could call it part of the pathway because it says here's where we're going. This is where we really are about. But how do you set the framework for?
You need to dedicate resources.
Resources, and a kind of structure or something. We got, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to lead this? What kind of a team? Remember the team you put together. Who's going to, right? So if we don't have that, we aren't able to make all this stuff happen if we don't have the right structure. So, certainly the structure is there, but also deployment and integration. Why is that important? By deployment, I mean how you roll stuff out. I'm talking about, okay, we got this thing, maybe it's a new sustainability policy we're going to roll out. How are we going to deploy that means what is it that we're going to do, and then what kind of materials or training information or training programs are we going to create to help people understand it, and then who's going to do that training, both at the corporate level or at the facility level or whatever, and how are we going to roll that out, and then how are we going to test to see whether people get it in the field. Because all too often what I find in companies is, people think the job's done when the thing has been developed and posted on the web, and they say, job done. Well, no, it's not done. People may not have an idea about this. They may not understand it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what's expected of them. So unless there's some way of effectively rolling it out and integrating it into the way that folks do business, aligning it, and so forth, you're not going to create the kind of environment where things are going to be done. It's just going to be posted on the web, and everybody's going to be over here doing something else. No accountability over here, no deployment, proper deployment. You can be accountable, but if it's not deployed, it's like holding and hitting. I'm asking you to do something, but I'm not telling you how to do it or what to do or what the issues are, and how. That's not fair. That's not how you get stuff done. Yeah.
Maybe I'm jumping off tangent a little bit, but we're discussing how you would implement this strategy to a new corporation or to a corporation that's already developed. How will we get that around to the customers to understand that this is the direction that we're going in now?
Well, deployment is not just to the organization.
Okay.
Deployment is not just to the facilities. Deployment is how do we get out to our sales and marketing folks? How do we get to our procurement folks? How do we get it to our community relations folks? So, you've got deployment, to the organization and in many respects to its stakeholders. So that's an important point to make about this. What about the pathway? I think, Andre, you kind of captured part of that. Put together a pathway. Where are we going? What do we need? Right? So certainly having a policy or some vision statement or something that says, look, guys, here's what we're after is important. Otherwise, people are scattering in different directions. What else helps define a pathway? Besides having this big grand vision.
Measurements of success.
Excuse me?
Measurements, so you can see if you're...
Measurements, yep. What else?